beautiful Kailua on the island of Oahu in Hawaii. And at Ukulele Corner, we just released and published a new book. And it's 20 practice routines for fingerstyle ukuleles. I'm very excited about that. I thought I'd share some of the ideas behind the book with you today, and we can connect. And we'll run through some of the exercises that are there. We've also launched membership on the website, and that's been going now for a few weeks. And I'm doing live sessions like this often at Ukulele Corner. And we have a full curriculum now of courses. There are 20 different units based on 8 grades and lots of fun material to work on. But I thought today I'd talk about the transition going from playing strum style ukulele to playing fingerstyle. And that's something we focus a lot on at Ukulele Corner. So I'll go over some of the right hand techniques that I like to use, and we'll play through some melodies and play some music. And so just for starters, I have a low G tuning here. I also have a high G tuning right nearby, always within reach. So I find that both tunings are fantastic, and there's a lot of possibilities. That the reentrant tuning is the original tuning, the high G tuning of the ukulele, and there's some really beautiful chord voicings and motions you can get between the fourth and the high string with that tuning. And low G works really well for some of the classical repertoire that I've arranged at Ukulele Corner. We've published a book of graded repertoire for classical ukulele as well. And all those pieces are integrated into the courses, along with these practice routines that we've just released. And the routines were originally written by Dr. Simon Powis, and he's my partner and co-founder at Ukulele Corner, and I'm very grateful for all that he's done putting it together. And he spent over 10 years revising this book and adding to it these wonderful classical guitar practice routines, and I've taken them and adapted them to the ukulele. And they're absolutely amazing for developing your technique and giving you lots of direction. If you practice and you feel like you're not making progress or you don't really know what to work on, these routines give you a very clear idea of a path to follow. And they're based on, in a progressive way, so they start at a beginning level and work their way up. So aloha everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. And maybe I'll just play a little bit to warm up my fingers as more people kind of join in, enjoying the fun. I'll play a piece called My Romance. All right, a little bit of jazz on the ukulele just to warm up my fingers and stretch out a bit. And I want to say aloha to everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. And I hope you have an ukulele. I want this to be very interactive, and let's play some music together. And let's work on how we set up our hands when we play ukulele. And so what I want to look at is something that is very closely integrated into the new book that we've released at Ukulele Corner, and it's 20 practice routines for fingerstyle ukulele. And as I mentioned earlier, these routines were developed by Simon Powis for guitar, and I've adapted them to ukulele and had a lot of fun. I filmed all of the routines. They're all available in the courses at the Ukulele Corner Academy, which now we have membership. And so you can become a member, and lots of great benefits of being a member at the Ukulele Corner Academy. But if you've been doing a lot of strumming as you play the ukulele, the transition to playing fingerstyle, we're often moving our whole wrist back and forth like this strumming. And in fingerstyle, your hand is very steady. There are different ways you can set up the right hand. As you notice, as I was playing that last piece, sometimes I was strumming. A lot of times I was playing fingerstyle like this. Sometimes I was playing fingerstyle like this, using my thumb for melody notes, alternating fingers. There are a lot of possibilities. But a great place to start is just getting independence between your index finger and your middle finger. And that's what I want to focus on today. Just those two things, getting those two fingers moving. And if you're comfortable doing strumming, a really good thing to work on is to suddenly, instead of having the whole arm move, have it stable. So what I want you to do, whether you're playing the reentrant tuning or low G, it won't matter. We're just going to play on the top 3 strings together today. So we're going to be playing C, E, and A. So think of just 3 strings instead of 4 strings to start out with. So take your thumb and plant it on the 4th string. It's just going to keep the hand balanced. When it's planted there, I want you to curve your fingers like this and make a C shape. Instead of your fingers being out flat in front of the index or the thumb like this, I want you to curve your index finger back so that you make a C shape, and the thumb has clearance. Instead of being behind the fingers, it's going to come out on the side. This is going to allow us to use thumb, index, and middle and ring fingers all together. Those are the main fingers that we're going to be playing across the strings. So planting the thumb there, let's try just actually do a strumming motion with index finger, strumming down and out this way. So now we're not using the whole arm and the forearm rotation, right? You're keeping it very steady. I see some very dear friends have tuned in, Margie and Joe Ozaki, who's in Colorado. I miss you guys, and thanks for tuning in to check this out. And Dave is in Virginia Beach, and it's great. So let's just try to get a strum going using this sort of motion. So I'm actually bringing my index finger back and extending it out like this. You can actually even touch the side of the thumb to get a little bit more power there when you first do this. Now, in the practice routine book, you'll find these are called rasgueado flicks. Rasgueado is a term often for using the back of the nail when you do strumming. Rasgueado, it's a Spanish term. Now let's see if we can just do a nice steady, holding a C chord, just the 3rd fret of the high string, just do a nice down strum, just to get that feel of that index finger extending down. Notice how I'm bringing it back each time and extending it straight out. This is going to work on the extensor muscles, which we don't use often when we're playing, this opening up of the hand, the fingers like this. Now let's work on an up strum, down, up. Now if we do a chord progression between C and G7, you can feel a nice 8th note rhythm, so 2 strums per count. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. See if you can join me and just do that nice strum pattern. We're just trying to loosen up our right hand and transition into this fingerstyle technique. See how my thumb stays put? It's even touching like right at the beginning of the fingerboard. You can be back over the soundboard. Notice when I strum, it's a brighter sound. I like this warmer sound up over the fingerboard. It's a very common place to strum the ukulele. Notice the difference as I move back. It's kind of metallic sounding, right? You can move your hand, you get a warmer sound. So that might be a different way of moving your hand than you're used to. You might be comfortable doing this, which is great. This is a technique that is very fundamental, using the forearm and the index finger to do a nice strum. Just that one finger hitting the string up and down. But once you get the feel of having your thumb and the arm stable and then being able to move the index finger, what we want to try to do now is control the motion more. And instead of extending out like we were doing a second ago, I want you to make a C like this and never go beyond the C. All we're going to do is this. It's half the amount of motion as we were doing before. So if I set my thumb here and I'm curving my index finger around to get onto the string, now what I want you to do is the opposite of what we're doing, and we're ending where we started, back in that position, actually touching the back palm right by the thumb with index finger. Now, if you do that, you're going to be following through to the back of the hand and using the back knuckle. Instead of lifting up on the note like this, with the finger coming up, I'm sweeping it back towards the back of the hand. That is using a different set of muscles than the middle joint. So we're trying to use the back knuckle, the back joint, and the finger to move. And so the very first exercise we have in the 20 Practice Routines book is to play across the strings with your index finger in the top 3 strings, doing 2 counts per note and 2 notes per string. So see if you can get this motion going. I'm doing a big follow through to start with. When you get the feel for this, you don't have to follow all the way through the back of the hand, but it's a really great place to start, is feeling that follow through so you know you have the right sort of direction. Feel the string before you play it. So there's contact, pressure, and release. Contact, pressure, release. And put a little bit of weight into the note. Instead of just brushing through it, you put a little bit of weight, land on the note. You'll notice the sound is much warmer and fuller when you have that energy into the string instead of just pulling up on the string. So let's try that together. We'll start with the 3rd string and 2 counts per note. So ready, play. 3rd string, 1, 2. Then again. Then 2nd string. Then high string. And then back down the 2nd string. And we're just going to work our way up and down the strings doing this. 2, 3, 4. Listen to your tone. Each note you want to try to match the sound. I'm using fingernails and I angle my nail a bit and I file my nail at an angle from left to right so that when my hand is at this angle, it creates a ramp that goes across the string. So you get a little bit of the fingertip sound, which adds warmth, with the volume of the fingernail. And it really helps your tone. So how's that feeling? Getting just that one note going, the one finger index moving towards the back of the hand. Okay, now let's try the same thing with middle finger. So put your thumb, it's planted, it's resting there on the 4th string, just like when we're strumming. Now for a warm-up, let's try to do that strum with just the middle finger. See, I kind of get my index finger out of the way. It's kind of straightening now. And I can do this motion of extending the middle finger out. Just engaging that motion, I'm moving all the way from the back of my hand and flicking the finger out. Now, think of that C shape, and we're going to do the same idea with the index finger. Just start very curved, even having the tip come around the string. Instead of playing the string from behind, I'm getting in front of the string and playing it here instead of back here. Now try the same thing with your middle finger. 3rd string, 2nd string, high string. I'm following all the way through till I touch the back of the hand. Listen to your tone. Try to get a nice warm tone as you do this. And these are all free strokes. Margie had just asked. So I'm doing free strokes now where you clear the next string. A rest stroke is where you stop on the next string. If you play down and play now, this is what a rest stroke looks like. But to start out with, I want to try the free stroke so we can work on that follow through. That's what we're trying to develop here, is the follow through with that C shape and the curvature in your finger. This is going to give you really relaxed hands when you play. It's going to make playing a lot easier. And you can get a really nice, warm, full, rich sound with this motion in the hand. Another thing that's amazing about it, there's a natural reflex. If I like snapping my finger, as soon as I play the note, if I just let go of the energy immediately, your finger snaps back. Watch how it bounces. It just snaps back to where it starts. So if you use the middle knuckle, it's 2 motions. But using the back knuckle, it's just 1 motion. It's like a rubber band, is shooting the fingers right back to where they started. So let's try that together. We're going to start with just our middle finger. Ready, play. 2 counts per note. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. High string. 1, 2, 3, 4. Back down. So I'm playing here the 3rd string. That note is C. The 2nd string is E. And the high string is A. So as you're learning at Ukulele Corner, we learned where all the note names are, all the chord names, and we learn rhythms, counting, reading, music theory, all those sorts of things, but then a lot of great repertoire. There's a lot of fun to play. Okay, if you're starting to get the hang of that, just try this again. Start from the C shape and just make a fist. Very relaxed back and forth. That's the motion as opposed to this, or being at the side and pulling up on the finger like this. Slight tilt in the wrist. I'm touching my forearm a little bit behind the bridge back here, and I'm making sure that my arm is forward enough so that I can get that C shape. If your hand is really far back, you're going to be reaching forward to the note, and you can't do the sweep. You just have nowhere to go. So you have to get in front of the note, and then you can do that nice sweep back. Okay, now let's try to alternate index and middle. And this is a challenge if you haven't done this before, and if you're just starting out with fingerstyle playing. Getting the index finger to move to the middle and then back to index on the same string. We call that alternating I and M, index and middle. Notice I'm still touching the 4th string with my thumb. It's still planted there, and I'm working on this alternation going back and forth. So just start on the 3rd string. Try to get the feel for that. I'm still moving to the back of my hand. I'm trying to do a really long follow through to start with as I work on this technique. Then the 2nd string. Then the 1st string, the note A. I'll go back to the 2nd string. I'll do 4 notes now on each string. 3, 4, then back down. So very basic setup for the hand. But this is such a fundamental technique, and so it's really good to very slowly take your time and practice so you really work on your tone and the freedom and independence with the fingers so that you can easily alternate index and middle. Now when we get our left hand involved, it gets confusing because then you have to remember what both hands are doing, and really the goal is to get the right hand so comfortable alternating by doing some open string exercises that you don't even have to think about it. It's just automatic. So this is a great thing to do if you're just warming up your fingers and just starting to play. Just start with this simple exercise of moving across the strings. And in our practice routine book, which is now it's available on Amazon, just as of yesterday or the day before, it's up there. It's 20 practice routines for fingerstyle ukulele. Very excited to have the book out. And all of the routines are part of the curriculum at Ukulele Corner as well in the academy. So this is the first thing that we see in the book. Now in the next exercises, we're working on alternation and we work on some rhythm. Now let's add in the left hand. And what I want to start with is just to do a C scale. So we're going to start on the note C on the 3rd string. And then we're going to play the 2nd fret with our 2nd finger. The 2nd string E, then F, 1st fret, G is the 3rd fret. High string open, 2nd fret, B, and then 3rd fret and C. That's a 1 octave C scale. A big part of these practice routines, and there are 20 of them, they cover a huge amount of information and are meant for years of study. And we cover all sorts of scales going up, the full length of the fingerboard back and forth. But the starting point is just that C scale. So 0, 2 on the third string, 0, 1, 3, 0, 2, 3. Just for memorization, I often think of scales in terms of those numbers, of what fret number is played, and then also for left-hand fingerings. So left-hand fingerings here correspond to the fret in first position. And that means that the first finger is based at the first fret. That's what first position is. Fifth position would be at the fifth fret. So in first position, it goes 0, 2, 0, 1, 3, 0, 2, 3. So the trick is, can you do that while alternating? So let's just get the feel for the scale very slowly. And don't worry too much if the alternating is not happening just yet. Let's just use our index finger to repeat the notes very slowly. And I'm going to play each note 4 times. So C, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then second fret. Now I'm going to move up to the second string. Feeling that motion moving towards the back of the hand. First fret. Hey, aloha, Neil Chin, a good friend of mine from the Seattle area. Great, brilliant ukulele player. Just tuned in. Now, the second fret of the high string, that's B. You can hear the scale, right? If you know the sound of a major scale, you're going to hear if you hit a note that's not part of the key. See that follow through I'm getting with my index, moving it back, and I'm not straightening out. I'm not doing this sort of motion with this middle knuckle. Keep the C shape. Imagine you're trying to keep water in your hands and not sink through. You don't want to open up your fingers or straighten them so the water trickles out. Try to keep your hand cupped as you play. You can still do this and be very relaxed. It doesn't need to add tension to the hand by making this position. It can be very, very loose and relaxed. Try to feel that bounce after you play, like a light switch immediately turning on and off. As soon as you play, like snapping your finger, just let go of the energy. So now let's try to play the C scale in time. Ready? Play 4 notes each time. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just using index. Very simple. So we can really focus on the left hand. E on the second string, open. First fret. F. Third fret is G. High string open is A. Then the second fret is B. And then the third fret is 1 octave higher than we started at the C. So this is what they call, the first note is middle C. The note below on the staff, if you're looking at sheet music, it would be the first ledger line below the staff. And then we end up at the third line, F, A, C, E. Those are the spaces in the staff. So the third space in the staff is what that note would be. Now what I want to try to do is walk up the scale now using middle finger. Let's try to get that flowing. We'll do the same thing 4 times for each note. Ready, play. So second finger playing, middle finger, the note C, then D. Think of the note names as you play. Then E, F. Notice my thumb isn't way up here, right? In my left hand, my shoulder isn't here. I'm trying to relax and bring the thumb down in the middle of the neck so that my left hand is very parallel and the fingers stay curved right above the note they're going to play. I'm not flat like this, but I stay curved up on the fingertip. You can't see my fingernails, right? Jump down and do it again. See? If you can see your fingernails, then you want to curve your fingers more. It's good to actually, if you practice in front of a mirror, looking in, you can see this more easily than I could looking down on my hand. Then F, first fret. G. then high string A, all using the second finger, 2nd fret, that's B, going to C. Okay, I'm moving through that very slowly because it's so important. It's really important. This is the way we set up both hands, right? Just by playing open strings to start with. That's a lot of what this first practice routine starts out with in the book. And then we add in a scale shape. But now let's try to think if we're going to alternate index and middle, what that's going to feel like as we move through the scale. And so before we go just flying up and down the notes of the scale, I want to do repetitions like we're just doing, but now alternating index and middle. So first thing, get the motor running so you get index and middle going back and forth. Once that feels good, then we're going to start walking through the scale. Now what we're going to have to do is, like we did before, cross over the strings, right? And we're going to move up to higher notes and back. Now what I like to try to avoid is staying with my hand in a low position and reaching up so I'm flat when I play the high string and then curving. I'm trying to move my arm up and down as I do this. So let's try to start on the C on the 3rd string open. Now alternate 4 times per note, alternating index middle. So ready, play. Index to middle. You can even look at your right hand and make sure it's working. Then we're going to put in that D in the 2nd fret. Make sure the alternating is happening. Open E. Then F. It feels like the fingers are walking. As one foot steps forward, the other one moves back instantaneously. It's an immediate exchange. High string. 2nd fret. Then C. Now, as we develop this technique, we're going to work on all sorts of rhythmic variations and playing dynamics, playing louder and softer, playing staccato, playing closer to the bridge for brighter sound. Can you try that? Alternate over here and move your hand with that thumb kind of just sliding across the 4th string as a way to keep your hand balanced. See if you can move your fingers back and forth. If you get too close to the bridge, it starts to get muffled, but you get this really warm sound. We call it tasto. This beautiful warm sound over the fingerboard. That's where we strum often. But as I move towards the bridge, it gets brighter. So let's try to do now our C scale, repeating those notes with a tasto sound. I want you to move your hand a little bit over the fingerboard. You might notice here, your fingers might want to run into the frets and actually hit the soundboard. So this takes a little bit of practice to get the feel. You just have a millimeter of space to move, right? So you're trying to be very, very precise with your motions with your right hand. See if you can just get that alternating going over the fingerboard. So my thumb here is about around the 17th fret or so. You could move a little further or closer to the 12th. Whatever feels good. If you play right at the 12th fret, that's the point where you cut the string perfectly in half. And when you do that, you don't have any what are called overtones in the note. It's just the pure fundamental pitch. If I play that, it has almost this hollowness to it. It doesn't have any of that high end that you get. That's just full of overtones and harmonics that are almost as powerful as the original note. That's why it sounds so different than this. So keep that in mind. 12 frets higher than any note you play with your right hand, you get just the pure fundamental sound. So we're aiming towards that as we do this technique. So let's play our C scale playing what we call tasto. Ready, play. Alternating. I, M, I, M. And then play the note D. Now we're going to jump up to the 2nd string here. I, M, I, M. 1st fret F. Listen to that warmth you can get, right? Playing over the fingerboard. Then C. Now let's do the same thing and move your hand back towards the bridge. Ready, play. So now we're getting this really bright sound. It's really fun to explore the range of color and texture that you can get on the ukulele. Now you're going to play the first fret, third fret, high string open, it's A, alternating index and middle, index and middle, playing the note B, and then C. Now, one thing as we get more advanced into and deep into the practice routines, this is what we call the C shape of a major scale. And for those of you who are more experienced players, we're going to move that up and down the fingerboard as a shape. And there's a system that's used often on the guitar called the cage system. And we apply that to the practice routines, where we're going to play in just about every key you can imagine on different parts of the fingerboard, but using similar shapes. So this shape becomes something that can move to any key by doing the same fingering, but putting my first finger where the open strings were. Then we can move like a capo. C sharp, the key of D, E flat, E. So it's a really great technique, and it's a nice way to use the same shape and play in different keys. And it cuts the learning curve down quite dramatically when you do this. Okay, so hopefully the C scale is starting to feel good. You're starting to get that feeling of alternating. Another thing that we work on when we do the scales is doing some dynamic changes. So we can stay right now, instead of going dolce or tasto and ponticello, warm and bright, let's stay right over the sound hole. My thumb is getting pretty close to the fingerboard, a little bit back over the sound hole. I'm going to alternate, and now I'm going to try to change the volume, playing softer or louder. And that idea of weight into the string can really help you. I'm pressing like a trampoline, kind of pressing down on the note so I get more volume. Probably notice this interesting contraption I have. It holds the ukulele in place. It's really great. I find having the hands free is really helpful, and a lot of people use straps as they play. So you can also get, this is based on what's called an A-frame support. They have one that can work on the ukulele. So now let's try to play, let's play the high string, the note A, and I want you to alternate. But let's start as a whisper, as soft as you possibly can play, so you barely can hear the note. But still thinking of that contact pressure release, thinking of the follow through, but just being very light. I'm doing less of a follow through now. Now let's gradually, without speeding up, that's going to be the tendency, you're going to want to speed up. But let's see if we can get louder by putting a little bit more weight into the string. Still feeling that same contact pressure release, but just putting more weight in there and playing with more intensity. Now let's gradually get softer, not all at once, but each note successively. This is what we call a decrescendo. Barely audible, just a whisper. We can do sudden dynamic changes as well. So let's work our way slowly. We're gradually going to do a crescendo, where we're going to get louder, little by little. Now, suddenly, we're going to play soft. Ready, now. Then suddenly loud. So they call it forte when it's loud, and piano when it's soft. Now piano, forte. So you could think of that as terraced dynamics. It's one terrace that drops down suddenly to another instead of this nice arch. And a lot of the music we'll play is based on phrases that have a really beautiful arch to them. And so we're always going to be looking for ways to shape melodies by finding where they can start at one volume, increase in intensity, and then have a resolution. It's a very common way to shape a phrase. Okay, now I thought it'd be fun. We got some melody notes working. You can do a lot with 1 octave of a scale. You can play some fun music. So let's work on a very simple melody. We're going to play Row, Row, Row Your Boat to alternate index and middle. And so in the beginning course, in the first unit at Ukulele Corner in the Academy, which is open for membership now, and I'm very excited to have that launched. There are video lessons and sheet music for all of the courses, and play-along tracks so you can follow along. So this is a typical of a melody just using single notes that we start with. And eventually we're going to add in bass notes and all sorts of chord inversions and play some really interesting, amazing music. But it's good to start out just by having a nice, clear melody. So I'm sure you've heard this before. I picked some things that would be pretty universal here. So it's actually, one thing about it, you can think of it in 3. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Now here's the tricky part. I want you to do this alternating. Then a descending from G to C. So you know this melody in your ear, right? So see if you can use your ear a little bit and follow my fingers to play. I'll tell you what the notes are without rhythm. C, then walk up the scale. C, D, E. Then we're going to go E, back down to D, E, F to G. Now at this point, we need to play a C right back to the note G. And this brings up a very important concept for fingering with the left hand. If you have to play the same note on different frets, instead of jumping with the same finger, it's good to use different fingers. So I'm going to use my pinky now, the 4th finger, to play the 3rd fret of the high string. I'm going to alternate. 1, 2, 3. Then switch to G. Can you practice that? Try to go back and forth to play the high string, then the 2nd. Notice my thumb is still planted on the 4th string. We haven't changed anything technique-wise other than using our pinky. This is the main exercise I actually wanted to work on with this piece, is getting that alternation going. And if you're doing 3 notes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, it's switching from index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle. Then we have a descending line that goes from the 3rd fret of the 2nd string right down the scale. G, F, E, D, C. And if you're counting very slowly, the rhythm is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It could also be thought of in 6/8. I would say at this point, just kind of use your ear. You know this melody, right? But we have this bouncy 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. We're not playing on 2, but we're playing on 1 and 3. If you like playing jazz music, blues, lots of different styles, R&B, gospel music, we use a lot of that sort of syncopation in playing. It's how swing feel comes about. It's dividing groups of 3, but playing the 1st and 3rd. So see, I'm still using that same technique, alternating. See if you can get a nice rhythm. I'm playing the 2nd string E here. See if you can just get that going. Count 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Index, middle, index. So it's like a lopsided feel instead of the even 8th notes. With that in mind, I'll play this melody again, and then you can join me. Now I'm going to use my pinky and alternate. Dive in. We could get a round going, right? If we could hear each other, it'd be great. So start, measure after me. Start here. Notice my hand is pretty stable. By having that thumb placed down, it keeps the hand very steady. I'm always trying to feel that similar motion going towards the back of the hand, so alternating. Now we could just try to do 3 notes per string, right, and move across the strings. Hey, aloha Bo from Hong Kong. Thanks for joining. I've been there a few times. I performed at the Shangri-La. I performed on the top of Victoria Peak once with a Hawaiian group. I played at Hong Kong University for the US State Department once, and I thought I was playing there with a Hawaiian, I played a solo concert, and then I played with a wonderful Hawaiian singer, Nathan Aviao, and hula dancers who are from Hawaii. And all of a sudden, this massive crowd formed around us, and I thought, wow, there are a lot of fans of Hawaiian music here in Hong Kong. This is awesome. And then we started seeing signs, and it was right before a big protest started. It was a huge protest years ago, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. But I just love that city. It's an amazing, amazing city. And the views from Victoria Peak are phenomenal. Anyway, so we're getting alternating. Hopefully after some of these exercises, it starts to become very natural, where you're not even thinking about it. You're just alternating back and forth. There's a strong tendency to repeat fingers. So isolating the right hand, doing open string exercises, and then doing a simple introduction of a few notes with the left hand. That's the way to start. So one more time, we'll try row, row, row your boat. We'll do it nice and slow. So ready, play. C, third string open. Then we're going to walk up the scale to E, then E, D, E, F, G. Pinky plays this high C, right down, alternating, then walk down the scale from G. Again, C to E. Notice how my left hand fingers are right above the fret they're going to play, preparing for the next note. Instead of trying to react in the moment and just jumping to the note, it's right above the note, ready to go. Right here playing this G, it's right there. Pinky's ready. I'm thinking that third finger is going to go back on the G. So try to think a little bit ahead of where you are. Last time. Alternate here. Now I wrote an exercise that's just in one key. This actually the exercise is all about modulating, and I go through about 7 keys and move this one melody up and down the fingerboard, but all relating to that C shape. It's fun to do. Let's look at another melody for some fun, and you're going to notice a nice C scale going on here too. It's a piece by Offenbach. And if you've ever seen the can-can dance, that's what this is from. This is also one of the lessons in the Ukulele Corner, the very first unit out of the full 20 that we have now. I'm introducing, we have lots of classical repertoire, Hawaiian songs, folk songs, and I'm introducing a whole bunch of new Hawaiian arrangements, fingerstyle solo arrangements of classic Hawaiian songs and original pieces. And so that's going to be added very soon. And we just added these practice routines as well. So check out ukulelecorner.com. You can find out more information about the Ukulele Corner Academy and the books we have. I don't know if the new book is on the site yet. Maybe Simon can chime in, but he did put a link to Amazon. You can find the new book if you look in the chat. That's there on Amazon. Just got released, like maybe yesterday or today. So we're very excited about that. And I want to thank Simon Powis for all of his work. They're his routines, and I adapted them for ukulele and had a lot of fun doing that. So same scale. This one's going to be a little bit more challenging for your ear, but I know you've probably heard this melody. Let me play it. That was just using our C scale. Alternating. I know if you're just starting, that's moving really quickly, right? We're just getting the alternating going. But I thought we'd give this a try very slowly. And I want to work on first, in the middle of that, you might have noticed, a descending C scale. So far we've only played it ascending. Now let's start on the C and work our way down. So start on the 3rd fret of the high string, then 2nd, high string open, then G, F, E, D, and C. You can make that into an exercise. See, I'm just looping it around and getting that alternating going. So let's try that very, very slowly, and let's play each note 4 times like we did in the beginning. Ready, play. So the high C, 1, 2, 3, 4. B, feeling the sweep with the right hand, move back towards the back of the palm. Then open. 2nd string. 3rd fret is G. 1st fret is F. Then open. It's E. Now we're going to run right down the scale. Ready? Play the C, 2, 3. Now high C, 1 note each. C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. Again, high C, alternating. I started with my middle finger, and that kind of shapes the direction. I just keep alternating. Middle finger, index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, index. Immediate exchange. One finger moves in while the other finger moves out, right? So I want that to be your focus. Start with the strumming with each finger we did, right? Getting that extensor muscle going, loosen up the hand. Doing a cat stretch is really helpful too. Just stretching your fingers out. Ooh, shake your hand out. Feels really good. Then you can start working on making that C shape, repeating one finger across the strings, then alternating. Now, if you want to strum along, and I'll play the can-can again, and those of you who want to try to play it by ear, you can try to follow. I'll play it slowly. You just need to know a C, 3rd fret of the high string, and a G7. G7, you hold down F, and a D, and a B. 2, 1, 2 on the top 3 strings with the 4th string open. So if you wanted to do a strum, it's really fun to play this as a duo. Down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. G7, C, G7, C. Again, C for 4 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. G7, C, C, G7, C, G7, C. Keep going. There's that scale. Again. So you see that alternating your fingers really helps to smooth out the flow of a melody. As I played much more quickly there, right? If I was doing one finger, it definitely works, but it's a lot more energy use with the right hand, and you can get a lot of flow going with index and middle. It's going to be, there are many songs that you can play without alternating. You could use your thumb for all of this. And I highly recommend that. The thumb is a very powerful tool on the ukulele, right? All that we just played alternating, you can try to work on with your thumb. And traditionally, a lot of the great ukulele players like Ota-san and Eddie Kamai, and even players earlier than that, like Ernest Kai and all these wonderful musicians, would use the thumb for tremendous, most of the time for a lot of melodic playing, and would have more of this hand position. Repeating a finger, and Eddie Kamai would play with the side of his finger, like, and he would do a lot of these nice combinations between the thumb and fingers. So just keep in mind that there are other techniques that are used very commonly on ukulele, and I think it's important to explore all of them. And mainly what I'm starting here is this sort of hand position, but then I want to explore other positions as well for different tone colors. If you're playing maybe a certain type of Hawaiian song, you're going to want to use the Eddie Kamai position. Or Peter Moon was another phenomenal ukulele player. He would use his thumb with all these quick down strums and do phenomenal things with that. So keep in mind that this is a very fundamental hand position that we're looking at, but you can mix it in with some other techniques as well and really expand your horizons. So just checking in on comments, and I'm glad that Simon said, just got the physical book right now. It just arrived. I haven't seen it yet. The cover is very cool. So this is the 20 practice routines for fingerstyle ukulele. And as I mentioned, Simon Powell spent over 10 years developing this for classical guitar. It's part of his curriculum at the Classical Guitar Corner in that program. And we've adapted it for ukulele, and now it's a part of the curriculum at the Ukulele Corner Academy. And I think it's phenomenal. I went through, in a pretty short time, actually, I filmed all 20 of the routines. And so I do lessons that breaks down all of the techniques used and runs through all of the different examples. But then for each one, with the metronome running, I run through the entire routine, and I did all 20 of them. After I finished that, I felt like, I felt like I ran a marathon. I was ready for anything. It's so good for your hands. It feels really good to work on these. And then you go back to repertoire and songs that you're playing, and I think you'll be very surprised at the transformation that can happen with your playing. So they're very valuable and really important thing to work on. And Margie just asked, are these available, and are they the same as the downloads that are available at the Academy? Yes. So the Academy doesn't offer like one PDF of all the routines, but each individual routine is there. You get the sheet music for this, and then the entire classical repertoire that I've arranged, and then the single note melodies, the Hawaiian songs, and folk songs, jazz tunes, all the material that's there. There's sheet music for everything that you can download. Just not with one click. You have to, it's good to just look at one piece at a time sometimes, right? When you're learning one thing, instead of just getting overwhelmed with all this music, just focus on one thing at a time. And that's what I want you to do if you do get the book. Don't hurry through the routines. Really, even if you've played for a long time, this first routine, you could spend quite a bit of time just to refresh and reset how your hands are set up, and with the concept of tone, muscle relaxation, hand setup, dynamic and texture changes, all the different things that we cover, you can really explore in detail. Oh, Margie just started downloading. That's great. So okay, now let's play. Let's end. We can do one more tune, and let's play a piece, a classical Hawaiian song called "Manawala Boy." And it's a lot of fun to play. A lot of the old timers play and make up their own verses. And this Manawala Boy was quite kolohe, a real rascal. And he would go sleep down at Ala Park, which is a place downtown in Honolulu that it's a little seedy. So it's kind of a joke about the trouble this guy gets into. And his family, his sister and his father, everybody, his mom and father, they all have secrets from each other. So if you ever get a chance to hear the full story of the song, it's very fun. But once again, 2 chords, just C and G7 if you want to strum along. And we could do really just work on sort of a swing feel, or accenting on 2 and 4. Just do a light strum, then a heavy strum. You could do an up strum. Then we're going to go to G7. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. C. Then vamp is G7. So it's a typical structure of a Hawaiian song. 8 bars and a vamp. 2, 3, 4. 4 bars of C. 3, 4. G7. 1 bar. So 3 bars of G7. Back to C. That's bar 6, and then we have a vamp. or bar 8, sorry, 9 and 10. Now keep that going. I'll play this melody. Here's our C scale. Then we start on D. We have a little arpeggiation here. I'm playing G, alternating, G, A, G, then C, D, E, F, G to E, then D, E, F, G, B, G, then up, land on C. Now I arpeggiate, G7 and C. I'll play it again so you can keep strumming. C, G7, back to the top, C. Here comes the G7. I'll play the melody. We call that a pa'ani or solo in Hawaiian. Walking up the scale. Then back to C. Then we have our vamp, G7. Back to the top, C. G7. Back to C. Yeah. Hanaho, one more time. I'll just play the melody. These fingerings should look familiar. Just the C scale. C, then G7, then C. So that's one of the Hawaiian melodies that we look at the Ukulele Corner. And they're backtracks that work on the strumming technique and work on playing that melody with the alternation or with your thumb too, right? You could play, as I mentioned, it's very common. Listen to the difference in tone. I could use my nail. That's one thing I love about the thumb. I turn my nail and get a really bright sound, or all flesh, which you can't do so well with the fingers. If you have nails, you can't get all flesh. The fingers are somewhere in between that metallic sound and the pure flesh sound because there's a combination. I use this angle, so I have fingernail end. I go from left to right. I file the nail like this so that I touch the fingertip on the left side of the finger on the string. And then it slides against the angled nail that I smooth out with a type of sandpaper. It's called trimite. You can find it at Strings by Mail. It'll transform your sound. If you have rough fingernails, forget it. You're going to sound brittle, and even if you have a really nice instrument, it's going to make it sound really terrible. So it's worth investing in some good, this trimite sandpaper that you can get from Strings by Mail. Very inexpensive and good investment. All right, well, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. That was a lot of fun. I hope you're feeling good about alternating index and middle now and playing a C scale in one octave. All those melodies that we just played and thousands of other melodies can be built on that one scale. And so once again, you can check out the new book, The Practice Routines for Fingerstyle Ukulele, that is available on Amazon. There's a link if you look up you could be one of the very first to buy it, if not the very first. Just was released. And also we have our graded repertoire for classical ukulele book as well. It's over 60 pieces in 8 grades, music from the Renaissance to modern eras of music. And I had a lot of fun working on that. And I haven't stopped, actually, since I've been working on that book. I continue arranging more pieces by Francisco Tárrega and Bach and other great composers. So anyway, thanks so much for joining in today, and feel free to get in touch anytime through Ukulele Corner. There's a contact page there. So ukulelecorner.com, you can find out more about what we're doing. And so aloha, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend. Ahui ho, take care.